In question number 13a, we're asked to sketch the graph of y equals sine of x for 0 to 360 degrees. And you can see that they provided this graph for us, the scale, the x-axis, the y-axis to do that on. Right, all you have to know is just we're sketching the most simple sine graph here. Okay, it's nothing difficult about this one. It's just knowing that at 90 we're at 1, or knowing that at 0 we're at 0. Okay, so 90 we're at 1, plot those points. At 180 we're back at 0, at 270 we're at -1, and at 360 we're back at 0 again. So sketching that graph, you do it nice and lightly with a pencil. Okay, and then we can, once we're happy with that line, we can go over it a little bit thicker. Alright, so roughly speaking, that's about good enough for our graph. Alright, and then you can, once you're happy with it, you go over it a little bit thicker. A nice smooth curve, as smooth as you can get it. There we go. So there's our sine graph. Obviously, if you calculate it, you could check that. At 0 we're at 0, at 90 we're at 1, but yeah, you haven't got that in this question, so you just have to know that. Write down the coordinates of the maximum point of y equals sine x between 0 and 360. So what's the maximum point? Obviously it's this one here, so that's 90 degrees and 1, so coordinate would be 90 and 1. Part 2 to B, it asks us to write down the coordinates of the maximum point y equals 3 plus sine x. So if we were 3 units further up, this sine x graph was 3 units further up, shift up by 3 is what we have to be thinking of there, because of this 3 plus, or sine x plus 3, doesn't matter which way around it's written there. We're going to be still at 90 on the x-axis, but we're going to be 4 on the y-axis, so 94 would be the coordinate there. That's why there's only one mark, these questions. Part C, we've got one solution of the equation for sine x equals k is x equals 60. Find the value of k. That means here, right, we're going up from 60 on the graph, and we're going across, and we're going to find the value, and you can see, oh, it's not going to be a whole number, it's going to be a horrible number. So the value of k is an awkward one, right? So to work that out, what we need to do is we need to know that sine 60 is something in particular. So we can substitute that 60 in here. 4 multiplied by sine of 60 equals this value of k that we want to find. Now we know, or we should know, if we know our trig values, if you've learnt them, you'll know what sine 60 is. You've got your various different ways of working it out. You've got that little hand trick or whatever. I like to use these triangles. You've got the 2 by 2 by 2 equilateral that's been cut in half. So using Pythagoras, we know that this is root 3, because 2 squared minus 1 squared is 3, square root of 3 is this length here. So we can ignore this side of the triangle. Ooh, I've rubbed out the root 3. We know that's root 3. And we just have to work out, because obviously it's an equilateral triangle, this is our 60-degree angle, this is our 30, that's our 90-degree angle there, cut it in half. That sine of 60, SOH, if we think about SOHCAHTOA, SOH, opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite root 3 over hypotenuse 2. So 4 multiplied by sine 60 is root 3 over 2. Now if you do 4 lots of root 3 divided by 2, 4 over 1, you can get 4 root 3 over 2, which you can simplify down to, if you just cancel the 4 and by 2, divide 4 by 2, you can get 2 root 3. So we found that value of k, because we worked out what sine 60 was, or we know what sine 60 is. We know sine 60 is root 3 over 2. You can find that value of k to be 2 root 3. So a little bit tricky. And then part 2 to that, you've got to find another solution for x in the range 0 to 360. Nice easier question. Now you can see, obviously, once we showed this up here, we can go along and we can find another point where we're going to get the same solution. You can see on the graph that we've drawn there, because it's fairly accurate, it looks like it's going to be 120, right? But to know that for sure, you go to the next place on the graph that is 0, which you can see is 180, and you subtract this value here on the x-axis. So from 0 to 60 is 60. So if we subtract 60 from 180, you can see it is going to give us 120. So 180 minus that difference, that gap of 60 degrees, is 120, and that is the other value. And you can just use your graph to show that as well if you want. You don't have to. Is x equals 120.